Well, last time we were painting with that, well, this palette, things were going pretty okay. So I think we're going to keep using it. At least we are for right now. I don't know. Feels weird using a slightly larger palette, but it does make things a little bit easier when we have to make up a bunch of different colors all at once. Because that palette we were using, the one that I just kind of... God, it was really small, wasn't it? Holding in my hand. I don't know if you guys remember it. I don't know if you saw it, but oh. I mean, it was fine. It's usable. But there's so little room that sometimes it got a little difficult to mix up all the different colors we needed for all the sessions we've been doing. So this, yeah, I think this is an improvement. Let's just make sure we got all the usual suspects in our palette today. I'm not even sure I need cadmium yellow, but I always put a little bit of it out because we use so much cadmium yellow. Been using a lot of different colors though recently. Been using a lot of Prussian blue, a lot of cadmium yellow deep. God, last time even cadmium red light was around. I have noticed that there's some colors we don't use as much. I think we don't use cerulean blue that much, Viridian. And the earth colors, we don't use those that much either. Do we need some alizarin crimson? Well, we actually might need some, so let me go ahead and squeeze some out. At least I thought I had it over here. Wait, found it. I just kind of have a pile of these things haphazardly strewn about. One of those fun things about artist colors. Artists aren't really organized people, all the good ones. None of the good ones are organized at all. So I guess I must be pretty okay, huh? Because, organization, not exactly my strong suit. Well, part of the reason for that is oftentimes artists are a little too busy sorting out all the ideas in their head to really concern themselves with their surroundings, for better or for worse. I think we're ready, guys. I guess, first things first, let's get a little Prussian blue out. Ironically, we squeeze out all those different colors, and Prussian blue is the first one we reach for. Well, that's pretty on brand. Alright, let's see if we can just use a little bit of the mud color along with that. Now, if this is your first time here, the mud color is just the color that's mixed up from all the other colors that we use over the course of a painting. And that mud color does make it a lot easier to mix up neutrals and all that stuff like that very, very quickly. Especially if we just need to make something, I don't know, a little duller, all that business. We might be onto something here. You only need a little bit of Prussian blue at a time. Just a little bit of Prussian blue at a time. It's very, very strong. Okay. Even that's still too blue. There's something to be said about using a weaker color here and there because the colors that we use sometimes get so strong that Prussian blue is still one of the most useful colors undoubtedly, but just getting a good tint on it, I don't know. Getting a weak Prussian blue and a very strong white is probably one of the best ideas you could have, honestly. Yeah. Alright. Yeah, it doesn't hurt to have a few different shades of Prussian blue mixed up at any different time. Alright. We've pretty much got something we can work with here, I think. Let's go for it, guys. Alright, let's start right about here. And then we'll bring this down slightly. And then right about in here, just past the halfway point, is where the curve there is going to just bend. Okay. This is the proportions on this have been getting better and better every time we paint, thankfully. So I'm feeling a lot more confident about this than I was. Right about in here, guys. right about in here, there's going to be that remote continuing, the remote that's on the figure, the remote that's resting on the figure's tummy. It's such a, I don't know, it's kind of a funny picture, this one. There's going to be a bunch of folds in here, but we're going to make those with, we're going to get the shadows for those folds with a little sap green, little cadmium yellow deep. Maybe we'll get some cadmium red light back in and do something with Prussian blue again, because that's what we did last time. We mixed a lot of shadow colors, very moody violets with cadmium red light and Prussian blue, which don't neutralize perfectly, but they do make a very attractive violet. That's very good for things that are, well, I don't even know if saying less exciting is the right way to phrase it, but here, let's just sip a little of this in there. I want to make sure that, you know, we're not getting all of our colors just in isolation here. This section over here is not like perfectly dry yet, so there's a few things we can still do here and there. Okay. And once again, we are going to go ahead and go over things a little bit. It's not like this is the end-all be-all of our painting. We are going to add a little bit more to it after we got everything all sorted with proportions and whatnot. Okay, let's just bring this up a little bit. I realized that I got things a little too well, just not high enough over here on some of this. The hand is just a little too, I guess, big. Yeah, that's the right word, big. Okay, that's maybe a little bit better. Once again, it's not dry yet, so let's not spend too much time on it. Otherwise, we're going to be driving ourselves crazy. Alright. Now maybe let's get a little creative with the cadmium yellow deep here. And some... Do we have any sap green on the palette? I don't think we do. Well, it's kind of a supplementary color, so it's not a great surprise that I didn't have any on the palette, because it's not a color you use all the time. Like, it kind of feels like I use it all the time, but it's not a color you use quite so much. It's just a color that we use sometimes. I've got a ton of, you wouldn't know it because I've got a ton of sap green. I have so much sap green, it's kind of silly, guys. Okay. Let's just add a little bit more cadmium yellow deep to this. I really just want to dull down the cadmium yellow deep, make it a little bit more of an ochre color. That's all I want. Maybe add a little white to it. Get it somewhere in that. Now it's going to become a little bit of a flesh tone right now. Not that we're looking for one, but here we'll just bring some of it off to the side, add just a big old pile of white to it. Okay. Now check out how light that is. That is way, way lighter. Way, way lighter. And it's a little bit like what we're looking for right now. Something lighter. Not too light. I don't want to go overboard with my sap green here, but I might be going overboard. I don't know. I might be going a little overboard. Okay, let's just add a little bit of the cadmium yellow deep again. I don't know. I should probably make it look a little bit more like what we have over there, just for the sake of continuity. You know, all that business. Okay, see? Alright. That looks a little bit more like what we were doing. Alright, now I think we're ready to start messing around here. let's just, I don't know. Maybe we'll add a little bit more in here. What we're kind of doing right now is just exaggerating some bits and pieces and some, some values, some folds, etc. Adding a little bit of what is kind of a, this is kind of a visual complement to the Prussian blue. A nice golden yellow is kind of a visual complement to a Prussian blue. I guess there's no kind of about it. It just is a visual complement. So it makes, what it does is it makes the color pop a little bit more. Between the two of them, it makes the blue look more blue, and it makes the yellow, or at least in this case, this duller yellow or duller orange, look a little bit more vibrant, I guess you could say. Yeah, you could say that. So, I don't know, it's just an interesting way to do things, an interesting way to get colors unexpectedly into your painting. Alright, these are looking good. Let's, oh boy, oh boy. I think we're going to want a little something. God, I'm going to use a little bit more of my sap green for this. I might regret doing this, but whatever. So what we're going to do, we're going to just add a little bit of that mud color in. That'll be the best way to do it, I think. Add a little bit of the mud color in, and that pretty much gives us an express path to shadows. That was the perfect way to handle things. This is what we have this mud color for. Like, you don't realize just how good a blend of all the colors on your palette is until you start using it. And then you realize, wow, that is it's a pretty powerful, pretty useful way of doing things. Okay, let's focus here for a little bit. Focus up. We're going to go right to about here. Right to about there with that color. And we'll bring it down here ever so slightly. Ever so slightly. And we'll bring the fold right up in here too. And it's going to go right to about here. Ballpark. Okay. Let's be very, very careful. I guess I'm overstating how careful we need to be. I mean, it's oil painting, guys. Like, if you're painting your own paintings, you can just paint over it if you screw up. Or you can just, like, get a whole new canvas and start over, because it's really not that big of a deal to bungle things, I guess is the takeaway. Like, if you feel bad about painting, don't feel bad about it, because, like, you don't get better at things by not doing them right. And that's what I think not enough people bring that up. You don't get better at things by not doing them. It's okay to mess up. You learn from mistakes, right? That's the beautiful thing about mistakes. As long as they aren't like catastrophic. I mean, it's painting. How catastrophic can it be? As long as it's not catastrophic. Like, say, I don't know. It's not like you're going to have a nuclear meltdown while you're painting. You might have a nuclear meltdown in your mind, but you're not going to have an actual, like, real life emergency while painting. Not very likely, at least. Okay, I think we got some folds there that'll do for right now. The proportions are falling into place pretty nicely. I don't know, maybe we'll wait to do the remote for right now and focus maybe a little bit more on... Let me get a paper towel real quick so we can maybe clean off our brush, clean off our knife, all that stuff. What I think I'm going to do, I'm going to do a little bit more of the shirt up here. This one's going to be, I think this is going to be pretty blue. Maybe a little bit bluer than what we did down here. Maybe. I don't know. Well, there's a reason I keep using this Prussian blue. It's just, it really is the right color for so many situations, guys. It's kind of humorous just how much Prussian blue I wind up using in any given session. Sometimes I wonder how many artists still use the color. I think just about everyone anymore uses phthalo blue. Prussian blue is one of those colors I think is mostly used in medicine, and I think that you see a lot of it in industry because they use the color for blueprints, but in terms of artistic painting, I don't know. I don't know. Alright. So there's some pretty scary stuff we're going to wind up doing today that I hope we're going to have time to mess around with, but we might just wind up getting the basics down. So what's going to happen is we're going to wind up painting part of the face today, which for a lot of people is pretty scary. For me, I'll say that it can be scary, but like I say, if you screw up, what's the big deal? Alright, let's just get this curve right here. And you can kind of see the curve of the arm taking shape there, can't you? Yeah, a little bit. Look like we already made a lot of our colors that we're going to be using for shadows and stuff over here. So let's take some of this. Maybe throw it in there. Curve that a little bit. Throw it over there too. What the heck, right? And let me see. Anything else here that we want to like just throw in? I don't know. I imagine we'll get to it later. Maybe that's all the yellow spots that we want to throw in there for right now. And then we'll just maybe take some of that gray mud color and come up with a little something. I think I need this to be a little bit lighter. Which means we'll just take some of the color what we just used for the shirt, mix it with the mud color, and see how it looks. How's that looking? It's okay. It's pretty okay. Just a little bit more white and I think it'll be fine. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. We'll just stick it right about there. Gray colors, they're not the most exciting colors, but they do add a lot to your painting. And they add a lot to your painting by making the more exciting passages appear more vibrant. Because not everything can be high key all the time. People always want their paintings to be the brightest paintings and all that, and it's just, even Paul Signac of the Pointillist, who did some incredibly vibrant paintings during his day. He did probably some of the most vibrant paintings I think I've ever seen in my life. I don't think I've ever seen a painter paint more vibrantly than he did. What he would do is he would use color theory and the juxtaposition of visual and mixing complements and stuff to, how do we phrase this, to punch up his paintings and make the colors look brighter than maybe they really were. He'd use color theory to make the colors vibrate against each other. I'm saying it like it's really, really complicated. It's not that complicated. He's just using color theory. He's using visual complements. And when you put visual complements against each other, like a green blue against a yellow orange or an orange yellow, suddenly those two are going to vibrate against each other. And if you manipulate the value of each one, or the how earthy one looks, or how dull or intense the color looks, it's going to change the effect. Now, a guy like Paul Signac, his paintings were done with very high key colors pretty much all the time. Not all the time, but God, a lot of his paintings use very high key colors. At least the highest ones that were available at the time. What's funny is he didn't have a lot of high key colors that we have now, so technically it's possible to make even brighter paintings than he did. He was limited by what they had back then. And they had quite a few colors. In fact, the colors I'm using right now are, by and large, more or less the same as what he was using, minus maybe the sap green that I'd use. If you count that, yeah, things are a little bit different, but it is remarkable how little has changed for artists over the past, God, at least oil paintings over the past 150 years or so. Things really haven't changed that much. I mean, there's new colors and everything out there, but a lot of artists still use those same old cadmium colors. And for good reason, because the cadmium colors just work. They work right. That's kind of the most important thing. They do what you need them to. There's just no other colors that really do the job like cadmiums do, if you want my opinion. Take that for what it's worth. And like I say, if you got different opinions, you can just say to yourself, hey, what does he know? And you know what? You're right. Let's add a little bit of ultramarine to this. Okay. I think we got something we can work with here, guys. Here goes nothing. We're gonna paint the base for the flesh tones on the arm. It's kind of weird how feels like maybe I've overshot things a little bit over here on the side. Maybe we need to refine the shirt ever so slightly. I don't know. Or maybe I've just gotten the curve of this a little bit wrong. That's okay. That's why we're going to refine it right now, I think. God, is this a little bit smaller than I thought it was? Or have I made a mistake here? We'll just give it a little bit more, and then we'll fix the folds later. Yeah, it's still in the ballpark, I think. Still in the ballpark of what we want. And that's the thing about these things. That's the thing about proportions and art and painting. Sometimes you just gotta eyeball it, sometimes you just gotta make a decision and run with it. Alright, so we haven't done too much with the fingers on this side, but right about in here there's going to be a little bit of space for the face to begin. And then the arm is going to go right about in here. It's going to curve this way. Okay. Alright. Feels like I keep messing with this shirt here. I can't help myself. Alright. At least it's somewhere in the ballpark now. That shirt was getting a little... I don't know. It's fine now, though. It's fine. Let's just focus on getting these colors right. We may need to bust out a little bit of cadmium red light on it. Excuse me. Okay. Let's see. Do we have something bright enough? Is this gonna do? I don't know. I think we might need something a little bit lighter. Let's bring it over here. Okay. I was just doing a bunch of cadmium yellow and alizarin crimson work over there. And now I think we can do this. We can do this. Alright, this is kind of about the right tone that I'm looking for. It's not bad. This is pretty good. Yeah, this is alright, guys. Okay. We're just gonna bring it all the way over here. God, these arms are interesting sometimes. I don't know. When you paint people, it's such a weird form at times. Sometimes you start to go into a trance and you start seeing abstract shapes, which is not necessarily a bad thing when you paint. Because when you get down to brass tacks, pretty much everything you're going to be painting is kind of an abstract shape. And, well, let's talk about that. When you're in art class, a lot of times art teachers will try to get you to think more abstractly, to think of the base forms of different things and break it down into the building blocks of what makes up all the stuff you're looking at and how to draw it, how to put it all together so it's recognizable or readable, etc. Now, certain painters don't try to make things recognizable, or certain artists don't try to make things recognizable. In some cases, the abstraction, the pure form, is the point. And there's nothing really wrong with that. It's just a different way of looking at art. Some people get pretty upset about that, but I say, lighten up, nerd. I think we need a little bit more yellow on this. Now, I'm all down for abstraction stuff, but I'm kind of over my abstraction phase. I made a couple of decent abstract paintings way back when, but I don't know. I don't know if I would look back on my abstraction phase with any kind of excitement necessarily. Although I do remember doing a painting for my great aunt a while back, and she wanted something that was, I forget what she asked for, but I gave her a painting that was essentially a still life that was done with some very high key colors and a certain amount of abstraction to it. It wasn't completely abstract, but I think it was more abstract than she really wanted. And later, despite that, she still hung the painting on her bedroom wall, and she came to really enjoy the painting. And years later, I was at her place, and then I passed by her bedroom, and I said to myself, That's kind of a nice painting. Who painted that? And then I looked at it for a minute and then realized, wait a minute, I painted that. So, even when you look back at a period of your life that maybe you don't look back fondly on, sometimes there's even then still some stuff that turned out pretty good. And I'm learning that sometimes you gotta cut yourself a break. I recognize that even at your quote unquote worst, you still have value. Okay. Yeah, a lot of this stuff down here is pretty dark, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know about some of this. Some of this is a little gnarly, guys. I kind of want to do some more work down there, but I don't know if I'm going to do it right now. Might just leave it the way it is for right now. Because we do have to get a move on here. We don't have all day to work on every piece of everything. Ah, well. Been looking a lot at different colors recently. Sometimes I just go online and keep an eye on what's available out there because I'm sure you guys have probably heard if you've been watching this for any length of time, but I'm working with paint that's a little bit older at this point. This line that I'm using right now, they don't make the colors anymore, so once what I'm using is gone, that's it, it's gone. So I need to make some decisions about what I'm going to do after I run out of this particular brand. And I'm learning recently that a lot of colors that I like using have been discontinued. Because I used to use cobalt yellow watercolor. I didn't use any oil paint that was, cobalt yellow because it's not that useful in oil paint, honestly. I think the only person who even bothered with cobalt yellow oil paint was Salvador Dali. He loved the stuff. He really did. I don't think there's a painting of his out there that doesn't have a little bit of cobalt yellow in it. Crazy. Um, but anyway, cobalt yellow was a watercolor that I used quite a bit, and Winsor Newton stopped making it for whatever reason. I'm guessing, well, they said sustainability and stuff. They discontinued it a couple of years ago. So, I guess maybe the pigment just ran out, or they just didn't feel like dealing with it anymore. Etc., right? So, at that point, I have to look at my options. And there's a few different options. You can buy a different brand. You can switch to a different color. Honestly, I've seriously just considered using something like a different yellow. Because I've done some good watercolor paintings with just a cadmium yellow color. Cadmium yellow is kind of an underrated watercolor, I think. Is that sacrilege to say? I don't know, but God, I was looking at an old painting that I did with cadmium yellow paint, and I forgot just how vibrant the painting looks. I was just looking at it going, God, I did that. I don't know if you've ever looked at like a painting like that maybe you've done and said to yourself, God, I did that. Like sometimes you just stare in disbelief at what you did. Because you can't believe that you just put something out there into the ether that looks as beautiful as it does. And I have a few paintings like that where I look at them and go, man, I don't know what happened that day, but I'm glad I pulled that off. Mixing a little bit of ultramarine blue into my flesh tones here. Okay. We may need to may need to call it a day on the arm here and move on to the fingies. Because those fingies need some work, guys. Can't just ignore the fingies. Alright. Alright. Arm is looking pretty acceptable at this point. I was a little bit worried about it. Oh, I was a little bit worried about it, but it's actually looking pretty okay right now. Everything looks like it's about proportionally right. Thankfully. Okay, let's, oh, man. Let's, focus now. Get a little bit of the cadmium red light that I was talking about, guys. And let's see here. Let's add just a little bit of white to that, because a little white and cadmium red light, oh, they really make magic together, I'm telling you. Doesn't take much to get cadmium red light to look like a good flesh color. Not at all, thankfully. We might need a more delicate brush. Let's get out the smaller brush for this one. Kind of crazy that I'm using a flat brush for most of this. You know, you don't need that many brushes when you're painting, but it does help to, it helps to have a few at hand for various purposes. A flat brush is really useful. A filbert brush is really useful too. Let's think here. A round brush, yeah, round brushes, flat brushes, and filbert brushes are probably the best brushes to have. Like fan brushes are okay. I've used fan brushes, but they're not that useful. Round brushes, flat brushes, those are kind of the best brushes in my book. I've gotten way more mileage out of those than I have pretty much every other brush, really. Okay, let's do this very delicately. These fingies are not easy to get, are they? Okay. Alright, that's pretty good. There's one more fingy over here that we have to get at some point, but I don't know if it's going to be today. Okay. Let's just make sure that we get this. Give a little up tap over there. I'm hoping that these hands are going to start showing up in a big way. Or these fingies are going to start being rendered a little bit more. I don't know. These fingers are going to... I just hope the fingers are going to look a little bit better. Alright, let's mess around here a little bit, guys. Yeah, let's mess around. I think what I want to do... I'm going to be bold and daring. I'm going to get out a little bit of... I'm going to get a little bit of my cerulean blue. Like I say, we don't use this color very much. Pretty much the only time we use it is if there's just a color that really begs for it, or yeah, if we're painting some flesh tones. Because cerulean blue is probably the blue that loves being skinned more than any other blue, I think. Just wants it. Loves teaming up with alizarin crimson and cadmium yellow and all that. So we're going to see what happens in a hot second here. I got a hair in my paint, guys. That's got to go. Okay, that's better. Alright, let's add that alizarin crimson in. Add a little cadmium yellow in. Alright, let's see how that yellow's looking. We need some white on this. I don't know. Now it's looking a little bit, looking a little violet at this point. I'm not sure about this color. Let me add just a touch more white. Okay. Alright. I think we got a color we can work with here. Let's start right about here. It's going to do a little curve right there. Face is going to scrunch up a little bit. Go to about right there. Alright. Here we go. Sound like we're in trouble, don't we? Nah, we're not in trouble. We're alright, guys. We got this. Alright, let's make sure that this is relatively straight going this way. Yeah, that's pretty okay. That's not looking too shabby. That's about the angle that we want, I think. Maybe. There. You have to be careful painting the figure, guys, because the smallest change in angle on any given part, the smallest change can completely alter the painting. You can get away with a lot when you're painting landscapes, when you're painting still lifes, but when you're painting the figure, you have to be very, very careful. So, especially faces, especially hands, the slightest change in anything will affect the painting. Okay. Right about here, we'll just throw a little something there. Something with a little bit of a yellow tone. Right about over in here. Okay. Now let's start thinking about a neutral, guys. Let's start thinking about it. We need cerulean blue. I'm going to mess around with my cerulean blue a little bit. My cadmium red light here. Let's not get too carried away. We still want to be careful. We don't want to go in all half-cocked. none of that. But, one way or another, we are going to find what we need. It's going to be kind of a brownish color. You know, and you probably say to yourself, well, why don't you just start with a brown? Which is not a bad idea. But we are talking, when I'm telling you about all these things that we're doing, we're really trying to focus on color harmony. And you achieve color harmony by working with a select few colors. See, if you do the dance between a number of different colors that are present elsewhere in your painting, there will be a greater color harmony than if you just use a localized color straight from the tube for every single part of the painting. If you localize just every single color using a tube, like if you pull out a brown for this brown over here, and then a violet for this violet over here, each from separate tubes of color, then this part will be disconnected from that part. But if we mix the flesh tone with the same colors we use, or at least most of the same colors that we use to mix this violet, then they will be connected, and you will know they are connected. You will feel the connection. The material attributes of the paint will be present in both parts of the painting, and it will be immediately recognizable to anyone who looks at it, even if maybe they don't understand why. And that's why we tend to mix neutrals a little bit more than we just use them straight from a tube. So, just thought I'd give you guys that aside, in case you're wondering. Just in case. Okay. I think we have something that might work here, guys. And we might have something that'll work. I'm just going to add a touch of cadmium yellow, or excuse me, cadmium red light to this to spice it up a little bit. Okay. I think what we have here is fine now. Welcome to the most difficult part of the painting, other than the hands. Okay. The mouth is going to start right about there, and then it's going to end right about here, right about halfway. Okay. Doesn't look like much so far, but I think we've got the mouth in almost the right spot. Yeah, just about the right spot here. Okay. Yeah, right about right here, there's going to be a mark for a note of cadmium red. We also have to remember that the highlights are really what's going to make the painting. The highlights and the shadows. And we don't have too many of those surrounding the mouth right now. But the mouth, believe it or not, is about the scale that we're looking for. About the note that we're looking for. Alright, let's add just a little bit of white to some of this dark color we've mixed up. I think there's something over here I'd like to do real quick. I'd like to put a little dimple right in here. Right about there. This right here, this area, the face, and the hands are where we're going to spend the majority of our time after we're done getting all the proportions and stuff right. This is where you want to spend literally all your time. You don't want to spend a lot of time on much of anything else. But this, yes, do spend all your time on the face and the hands because they are the first place that the viewer is going to look. This is the main attraction. This is what people want to see. They want to see the face. They want to see the hands. That is what they relate with the most. Alright, we're not getting too much in the way of color in this yet. Debating how much I really want to do as of right now. Maybe we'll add just a little something over here. Maybe a little something to the upper lip here. Okay. Maybe a little something down here too. And then maybe a little bit to the corner right here. Okay. Alright. This. This is something of a relief right now because despite how minimalist it all feels at this point, it still feels good. It still feels like we're doing things right. It still feels like we haven't messed anything up. And sometimes that's really the best feeling in the whole world right there. Got another hair in my painting, guys. Gotta get these hairs out. I don't want no hair in my paint. I said I don't want no hair in my paint. Here, let's maybe get it out of here. Hair's getting in the way. Now, we haven't done a ton of work on that face, but we have it in place. And that is exactly what we wanted. Now what we need to do is just give it a little bit of hair. Give her a little bit of hair. Get a little bit more of my cerulean blue here. Cerulean blue coming through for us once again, guys. Cerulean blue, alizarin crimson, cadmium yellow, and cadmium red. Those colors really carrying this entire painting right now. Carrying the flesh tones. Sometimes it makes cerulean blue feel like a superhero, you know that? Probably, it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but you guys know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean. Okay. Let's put some brown colors in here. Yeah, brown colors. What else are we gonna put in here, man? This is going to be kind of transparent, isn't it? Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. Here, we need to bring this like way over here, actually. There. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Just add a little bit of cadmium red light to all this. A little bit of cadmium yellow deep. Let's see if we got a color we can work with. There. This will get us somewhere in the ballpark of what we want our pillow to be. There's a little green color in there that I guess we could get. Yeah, what the heck. Let's go for it. Just a little bit of something over in here. Nothing too exciting. Okay. Alright, I think we got it, guys. Good enough for right now, though. Well, that was a tough painting session today, guys. We almost did not get that entire thing done. Well, we had to spend a lot of time on the face. And you know, face is always the hardest part, guys. Any painting, face and the hands, but I'm glad that we at least got some of it going. And I feel like we've got a good base for the rest of the painting. This is all very, very positive. Okay, let's mix up that neutral color, that mud mix, get ourselves ready for next time. And I think we are good, guys. Alright. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you guys later.